stand by, stand by, to stand by.
Welcome back to another episode of Stand By to Stand By. I'm Stephen Covey. This is the podcast where I talk to people all and around the live events industry. And we're doing a good one today. We're jumping to stage management with Kelly Brown, who is a stage manager for multiple ballet companies. But first, let me tell you, a big part of this business is a lack of sleep during the busy times. It's a feast or famine industry. And when you're busy, not sleeping a lot. And man, oh man, I am on like no sleep. So bear with me, putting this together. Making it happen, coming out a little later than I would have hoped, but that's okay. Remember, please, if you have comments or suggestions or thoughts or opinions or stories of your own, reach out to me on standbys at standby2standby.org. I'd like to hear what you say, and I'd like to maybe put some of these shorter stories into the show, kind of get a little variety happening. Anyway, all right, I need to go lay down. Before I lay down, let's listen to a really cool, fun conversation about a former dancer turned stage manager, incredibly awesome person with some really fun behind the scenes stories, Kelly Brown.
Stand by, to stand by, stand by, to stand by.
Yeah, so where do you want to start?
Well, I guess going back, so you're doing scenic. Then
Yes.
where does that kind of lead? You're kind of doing some electric stuff. You're doing some design work. You're kind of trying out this and that. You said you did some spotlight operating and some.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I was still sort of dancing at the time too. So it was a lot to juggle around in terms of like I'm learning stagecraft, but I'm also kind of still dancing. And I'm in college, so whatever. But yeah, I did a very dumb thing one day and backed up off stage into an orchestra pit.
Oh, right. That's a horrendous story. And a cautionary tale, if ever there was one. Like, be aware of your surroundings, right?
Yeah, 10 out of 10, do not recommend falling in an orchestra pit.
Oh
It's
my God.
really an unpleasant experience. That plus other injury things, not taking care of your body because you're 20 and stupid, led to a realization, rehabilitation and a realization that dance was not going to be sustainable for me, not as a performer.
No.
And as much as I loved it and was passionate about it, sometimes you're gracefully accepting things that weren't meant for you.
Yeah, but you kept yourself in the world, which is cool, because you could have left and gone, well, I guess I'm going to be an accountant now. Or you know what I mean? I guess this is it. That was the end of that.
I don't think I would do very well as a 9-to-5 office person.
I mean, you're one of the most organized people I've ever met. I bet you do pretty well at anything you kind of wanted to do, but it's really cool that you kept yourself in this line of work. You kind of took everything you had learned doing all these different things as a dancer, all the experience on stage and around. And even with the injury, moving forward and going, all right, I'm going to get back into this and find a way to kind of keep this in my life. And then is that kind of what led into more stage management, or did you get back into more design stuff?
Yeah, no, after I had hurt my back in a way that told me I was not going to be dancing anymore, then it was like, okay, well, let's take care of the body and let's shift gears all the way into stage life. So it was a fluke thing. I wound up stage managing a show that I wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to be like the ASM on the show. I had never stage managed in a formal way before.
Oh my God. So you're going in as an assistant just to kind of get a sense of that.
Yeah, and then the stage manager got mono, so I had to like jump in, and that was that. But during that process, it clicked. It was like, oh my God, this is the thing. Because I've been a performer, so I understand the humanity of what's happening when somebody's either injured or nervous or messes something up, or I've like literally been in those shoes, so I get that, and I understand how to helpfully respond to that. Awesome. Usually. Yeah, I don't, I'm not a stage manager who yells, and I'm not a stage manager who treats my people like cattle, because I believe there is dignity in all work, from the person who's like mopping the floor or
Everybody.
staying late to do the laundry for the next day or the star of the show. Like everybody has their role to play.
Yep.
It's a collaborative art form. It doesn't work unless we all work together. So I
love it.
I always joke that my job is like the art of manipulating everybody into working together, you know, designers at the tech table who maybe aren't agreeing about things and just trying to like be helpful when I can be, center everybody up, keep us all focused on the task at hand.
Oh my God, the psychology of it. I wasn't even thinking. You're right.
Bit.
You're playing like you have to play kind of psychologist. Like, all right, if I come at them hot and heavy, they're going to respond with the defensive, matching of that.
Yeah.
So let me go out and what's going on out here? And
I have to yell at them about this, but they're about to go on stage, and you don't want to do that to a performer right before they go on. You want them locked in the flow state zone for what they're about to try to do. But sometimes I'm like, you guys, come on. Right. You're killing me right now.
Right. But you almost end up with like a stage mother because you're like, you have to really, with the dancers, you've got designers, you've got technicians, you've got everybody. And it's all just very much like, no, you're doing a good job. Here's how we can keep going. How can we help you? How can you, here's the current constraints of what we're up against. How do we work it out? Where can we find the time? Like that all kind of falls on you as that stage manager, which is a lot of responsibility, right? I mean, do you feel it sometimes? I know sometimes like, when you get into a long tech week or something, it's definitely
once the sleep deprivation sets in, my fuse is perhaps a little bit shorter. Yes. But I mean, I try to treat others as I would like to be treated. That's all that. There's no need for this to be, I am not a warden. I am like here to hold everything together and to execute the art and honor the vision.
That's it. And that's how it works out better. It's not an us versus them. It's not my, I always like the expression like your shit is in the way of my stuff. You know what I mean? It's like somehow my thing is more important than yours and whatever. But like you said, every part is important. Everybody, from the person cleaning up the chairs, that needs to happen, and to the people, everybody throughout the whole process.
But I always think of dancers as artistic athletes. It's really like where the arts and sports kind of cross over a bit, 100%. Similar like gymnastics, figure skating, these sorts of disciplines.
But it's this performative athletics. It's so wild to me. I would have never known had I not gotten into the business, just not really following ballet or whatever, dance or anything, but really seeing the athletic side of it, the amount of training, just the class first thing in the morning before 2 performances and a rehearsal or whatever. The amount of work they put in, they're patching stuff up. There's constant
the audience sees them in a pretty tutu looking effortless and weightless on stage. What they don't see is falling over backstage because they've like totally lost all the oxygen that's in their lungs because it's been spent on their muscles. Throwing up after, something really, which we see athletes do from time to time.
Sure.
Or, the humanity of sports injuries in dancers is crazy. So like scary. Hearing an Achilles tendon rupture is wild and it's awful. And some days it's like you have such a spectrum of emotions that you go through, joy. Oh my God, nailed the turn. Yes, got it.
Right.
Devastation, I just blew out my knee. I'm going to be out for a year.
Right.
This
what
is
does that
awful.
mean? What does that do for my career? What is my life now?
And the domino that happens of like, because this one's out with the knee, she's getting pulled and these people are getting put in and all the, it's like, dancers live and die by that casting. And when that casting has to change, even if it's not quote unquote their fault, but it's affecting them, it's tough because their career is short.
And I wasn't even thinking of that. The like, okay, someone's gotten hurt. You are now moving up to this position. So you want to feel like elation because you're going to get this
huge opportunity.
But at the same time, you're doing it on the back of someone else's injury. Like that's got to be so conflicting.
It's like a weird thing to resolve really quickly in your brain of my friend is out, but I'm in and here we go. Right. It's happening.
This is it. What else are you going to do?
So, a lot of the time people are coming into this not really having a lot of life skills in place yet, especially if they left home early. You left home at 13 to go study at this elite ballet school.
And you're doing well and you're moving forward. But really, once you get to your 30s, it starts to like get rough.
Yeah. I mean, if you're lucky, you make it into your 40s and
I know.
It's rare to make it to 50, but if you do, that's amazing. There's a physical turnover time. It's like in gymnastics, gymnasts who stop competing after a certain point because it's like my body is just at this point only going to do certain things.
Like it's such a crazy performance thing. And then God forbid something happens on stage in front of the audience. Do you play it off? Do you keep fighting? You go through it? Now, I know you got a bunch of stories of things like that happening. I'm thinking like dancers want to dance through sickness, right? I mean, a sickness, they're not going to just stop because it's not an injury. Time. So they're sick, like sometimes, right?
I mean, I joke that dancers are like the easiest performer because really all they want in life is a warm stage, a floor that's not crazy, a tennis ball and a banana, and like they're good. That's like all they need in life. So that's, if I can make that happen for them, they are happy campers. So yeah, there is doing it domestically in the US, there's a formula you can lock into, and certainly you'll have unconventional spaces and whatever. But then when you go on tour internationally, you start interacting with more variables.
There's a different healthcare system. There's different,
correct.
911 doesn't work.
Different quality of life, depending on what country you're in. Different attitudes of people toward anyone, women,
true.
Folks of other genders or sexualities.
Oh, you got to deal with all that.
You got to deal with all that. Racism's a huge one in a lot of countries.
That's terrible.
But sometimes you got to watch the water. And there's one of my, if we talk about the harrowing category.
As it is, yeah.
So
oh my God.
We were in St. Petersburg. And Russia. And, it's a known thing that like Russian tap water has certain elements in it, parasitic stuff going on in it.
Kind of like Mexico with
a little bit. That any Russian citizen is totally fine and adapted for, but an American is not going to do well with. So we had always made sure, mineral, still, bottled water.
Bring your own water.
And the venue would provide bottled water, or they would dump it into like a big Gatorade jug for backstage because it's hard, with 1 million water bottles backstage.
So they're aware of the dangers of tap.
This was totally something we were doing and had been doing on all of the stops prior.
Okay.
But on the meal break after the tech rehearsal, going into the show, I don't know who. Somebody must have just messed up, and they refilled the coolers from the tap instead of the bottled water.
So this is the cooler everybody's pulling out of.
This is the cooler. Everyone from backstage is pulling from these coolers.
That's not a small problem at all.
No. And thank God I happened to have an extra bottle of water with me that day, so I wasn't drinking the cooler. I was drinking the bottled water. So nothing, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, no, at least someone's got to be healthy. Not but
I didn't know at the time. It was luck that happened that day. So we start the show and we get through Act 1, intermission, Act 2, intermission. We're getting to Act 3 and I'm looking at my principal man who starts the opening solo in Act 3 and he just does not look right to me. He's moving slowly. He's gray in the face. He just doesn't look like himself to me. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to keep an eye on him.
Right, just noticed. And,
moving on. Sometimes they're just having a moment. That's fine. So curtain goes out. We start. He gets through his opening solo, makes his exit stage right, passes me, and vomits.
Oh, boy.
Badly. Not just I had too much at dinner, full out. Right. I'm emptying my stomach, vomiting.
Uncontrollable.
Uncontrollable.
But controlled it to get off stage.
Yeah.
See, again, it's that performer mentality.
Dancers are strong as hell.
So hardcore, man.
Dancers will literally have their foot hanging off and try to make it happen.
Yeah. And they'll collapse when they come off or throw up violently when they get off stage out of the line of sight. That is so strong and just driven and oh my God.
Dancers are in it to win it, full out, 100%.
I think most performers have an idea of, and with technicians too, there's a lot of don't let the audience see the mistake or the problem. As long as it looks like it's not a problem, we keep rolling and it looks purposeful and all of a sudden it's we know it's a high pressure mistake happening or fixing it. The audience is applauding, everything's fine, and moves on.
They have no idea.
And that's that. I love that part of this job so much. I like that quick troubleshooting. Let's just mask what's happening and keep going. But ultimately, I'm okay. It's just the gear that's failing. with dancers and with performers,
Yeah.
they're not okay.
Adaptability is key.
So scary.
Yeah. So my man comes off stage and vomits.
Yeah.
Then the next folks who are
Here we
on
go.
stage, they get off stage and they vomit.
Oh my God.
And then the next one comes off stage, vomits into the fly gallery, into like down the fly rail, into the
like
basement.
the well there? Oh my God.
Yeah, like projectile, like it's bad.
Oh God.
And it's just like, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. I am running out of dancers, not vomiting.
In a foreign country.
doing a show.
Holy
Cool, whatever.
Right, 2/3 of the way through.
So at a certain point, it just started becoming whoever's not barfing, get on stage and do something that is kind of like the steps we're supposed to be doing.
Oh my God.
And we got through it. We did a thing.
Nobody threw up on stage.
No, but through a sheer miracle, not
Unbelievable.
a single person threw up on stage. Backstage was another story. Backstage was carnage.
Oh my God.
It was insane.
I can't even imagine the mess of it.
I was covered, and it's another, like, if you're going to be a dance stage manager, get ready to be covered in bodily fluids, because that was a day I definitely had vomit on me. It was...
See, stage mother,
Great.
It's very much a mother thing.
Awesome.
Very motherly, to get covered in other people's fluids. But God almighty. And then just like, what do you do for cleanup? Are they trying to clean up as it's happening? Is it more of a like, it's out of our hands, let's get through it and then we'll deal with it after?
I mean,
is it just a piling up? Is it?
We tried to keep, lanes free. They were good, so good, these dancers. They got as far off as they could. They got to the trash cans if they could.
Right.
They knew
keep it so
what
that
the goal was.
no one's going to slip in it as much as possible.
Exactly.
Get it off to the side. Oh my God.
But like having to explain to these Russian folk, like the presenter and what had happened, once we realized what had happened, because at first we were like, why is everyone barfing? What's happening?
How did you even link up that it was the water, that one jug?
I guess we started all checking who we all went to different places for dinner, so it couldn't have been that.
Right.
We all, so the common link was the water.
Oh
We've
my
all been
God.
drinking this water.
Because without knowing that, what's going on? I mean, is there like a horrible bug running through the
Someone
building all of a
trying to
sudden?
kill us? What's happening?
Is this like a chemical warfare? Like, what is happening? But the audience had no idea.
Audience had no idea. They were
Beautiful.
clapping, thought it was a great show, whatever.
Did the sick ones go out for bows?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They bowed. Every single one of them.
How do you
got
do
back
that?
out? I guess by that point, their stomachs were empty and they were just dry heaving.
I just want to lay down at that point.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Big smiles.
Wow.
I've had ones where,
Beautiful.
her nose got. I've had a show where
What happened?
it was two dancers and he smacked her real bad and broke her nose and
Blood and everything?
everything.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
so they get to the end of the duet and they're holding each other at the end of the duet while the lights fade out, and he whispers to her, and I heard it on stage, like, don't smile with your teeth. Don't smile with your teeth. Don't smile with your teeth. Because if
Don't let
it
him
would have
see you
been a
bleed.
very like bloody jack-o'-lantern smile.
Which all of a sudden now an audience goes from clapping to concern. And you
holy
don't
crap.
You don't want that emotion in there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it's funny.
But that idea of like, again, the show's going to go on. He's whispering to her like, all right, this is what it is. This is what you got to do it.
Sorry, I broke your nose.
Right. And she probably like accepts it as like, well, it was a mistake, but here we are. And how do we keep going?
Yep. You can really hurt each other, and it's happened.
Break somebody's nose.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not like it's your mistake or it was my mistake. It's it's our thing. Let's get through. Let's fix this. Let's make
We
it
are moving
as smooth
as
as we
one.
can. Right. It really is symbiotic in that way, which is, again, I would have never known, having not worked backstage with these dancers and seen really what they deal with. Just with the nutcracker and the snow that goes into their mouths. On stage, you have no idea. They come off stage and they've got to cough it up. And it's like a brutal, ugly motion and like release of like, getting it all out. On stage, it's beautiful. Like that
It looks magic.
is magical. It really is.
I'm pretty sure you could x-ray all of us, though, and we would still have snow in our stomachs.
Oh, I know. I got some of my socks right now, I think. It's been a while. So I got to ask, it's a weird one, but I guess it's along these lines. What's the worst injury you said? You said you've heard an Achilles snap. That sounds terrible. You got a broken nose. We've got vomiting. What's like a...
Yeah, too many injuries to count.
Right? It's so scary.
Different dancers recover differently from injuries. So I've seen a bunch of knees get blown out,
Oh my
but sometimes
God.
they come back from it. Sometimes they don't. It depends. It's like me falling into an orchestra pit.
Right.
My back was just like not going to do an arabesque ever again. So
Well, who comes and saves you at that point? Because again, it comes down to like, you can't get up at that. You need someone to come help you. Did they like send for EMTs at that point?
with me, I actually got up and drove myself home.
Are you kidding me?
I like got the wind knocked out of me, but I caught my breath eventually and went home and took a bunch of Advil. It was later on.
You thought you were just going to be sore.
I hurt a lot the next day, but
Kelly,
then
God almighty, Kelly.
Yeah.
Because broke your back basically, right?
I mean,
there's different ways to break your back, but
yeah, it
wasn't just
it is no longer intact.
Oh, God almighty.
So yes, life now takes some doing and constant physical therapy and yoga and,
But you've been good about it. You have not let that define you at all. You've moved on. It's a story most people don't even know that work with you for years. They don't really know that happened to you, and you move forward. And that's when you think of that with all these other stories of dancers and the resilience of just like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm going to move on. That you got yourself up and drove yourself home and just kind of like, I'm going to power through it. And that's what the dancers do too. It's really remarkable. I don't even know how to say it. It's so crazy. And so like, people need to know that on some level. Like when you go watch a dance show, like it's beautiful and it's choreographed and it's rehearsed and it is all those things, but it's also like there's a lot of pain and sickness and things going through that they don't show you while they're dancing on stage.
Yeah.
And that's the performer. You know what I mean? That's the art really behind it of like, no, it's going to be as beautiful as it can be. I know my knee is blown out. I know my nose is broken. I know I'm throwing up just 2 minutes ago, but I'm going to go out and still do 110%. Like it's so fucking admirable. Like I can't get over that part of it.
It's pretty crazy.
Right?
And I've definitely said to someone before, your shoulder is dislocated. I don't care that you just walked over to the wall and put it back in.
Oh my God, on their own?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen people relocate their own shoulders against a wall or a mirror. It's hardcore. It's not for the faint
even getting
of heart.
someone else to do it is like such a pop. Like
very
I
painful.
don't think I've seen it outside of like TV or movies, to be honest with you.
It's
you've seen it multiple times by people doing it on their own.
Yes.
And then getting back out there.
Yes.
So you had to tell somebody one time that no, listen.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like, homeboy, this is not worth this right now. You're going to damage yourself. Please sit down.
But it's hard for them to kind of hear that, right?
Yeah, they don't want to hear that in the moment.
Again, it's that drive of like,
I had
I'm
one.
fine.
I've got a good one for you.
Oh, I can't wait.
So I was at a different company at the time, beautiful dancers. I had this one dancer, hardcore. She was so good, so talented. But she was this like teeny, tiny girl and so sweet. Never said a mean thing
So many of
to
them
anyone
are.
ever. Like the kindest human. I loved her, like as a dancer, but also as a friend.
That's awesome.
So she's
God, what happened?
she's dancing this crazy ballet.
I can't even look at you.
And rolls back, and her head, she loses her balance, and her head slams into the floor.
The back of her head.
The back of her head.
Like full on kind of concussion
Full
style.
out. Like her head like bobbled on, like, and it was bad.
So you know she's seeing stars.
So I know she's seeing stars. But like a hardcore dancer, she gets up and keeps going. And gets off stage, finishes the act, gets off stage.
Professional.
We sit her down and we're like, okay, let's look at you. Me and the PTs are there. We do a basic concussion screening, which she promptly fails. Her eyeballs are jumping all over the place. She's having speech things. It's it's on. Full out concussion.
This is bad.
Time to go to the hospital. Right. So I say to her, I'm like, I'm sorry, but we're making the call now. Her boyfriend was in the house. We're like, come, you're going to go to the hospital now. You're concussed. And she wouldn't hear anything about it. She cursed me out.
That's part of a concussion, they say.
Exactly. It was a behavioral change, another symptom that she's very concussed. And especially being her, this tiny, sweet salt of the earth person telling me that she hates me and, no one likes you. And
just being mean.
Just like,
like meanness
things
coming out.
She would never say.
Just totally out of her character.
Just totally like bonkers.
Which just makes it more scary, really.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this is actually that bad. There's like brain damage potentially. It's
absolutely.
So scary.
And in the moment, I'm like, oh my God, you're saying all these terrible things to me. I hope you don't actually think this somewhere in the back of your head.
No.
But I'm like,
It's really one of the symptoms.
It's irrefutable. You must go to the hospital. I'm sorry. The next day, she came back to just watch and be backstage. But she
felt terrible.
She felt terrible. She came up to me and she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I said things. You were right. You did the right thing. Thank you for helping me. You know,
of course.
She understood.
And she had memory of it, which is a good sign too. But she must have felt terrible.
She had some memories and then had been filled in on other things.
Oh my God.
And I felt terrible in the moment, but I knew it was the right call.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the PTs, we all knew it was what had to happen. So,
because I'm guessing it was around the time when like football is looking at concussions. It was really a hot topic for, all of a sudden, like this is serious.
There's
potential
trauma,
long-lasting effects that if left untreated, and like it's really to be treated seriously.
Anytime a dancer goes down, I'm like, did they hit their head?
Especially the back of their head, right?
Yeah.
Like she did. Because where she's like cussing you out and like you said her eyes were doing
completely. Yeah. When you do the scan of moving to the outer, and
it's not tracking.
Her eyeballs were jumping like a Mexican
so
hat dance. It was crazy.
Oh my God. Have you seen there must be multiple concussions with dancers, right?
Oh yeah. Plenty of concussions,
Jesus
plenty
Christ.
of broken bones, tendons, knee blowouts, ankle blowouts.
Tendons, knee blowouts.
Yeah.
Sounds so bad. Like the ACL goes or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh,
and sometimes, medical emergencies too, a seizure or, that kind of activity.
Didn't that happen recently? Something was going on stage left.
Oh, that one I probably can't talk about.
Okay, no problem. But something, but things like that do happen where...
Yeah, I had a girl have a grand mal seizure on stage one day. Not different company, long time ago. But
did she have a history of...
No, it was her first time.
See that?
It was very scary. It was very scary. And I was a young stage manager at the time. And,
how did you handle it?
I mean, in the moment, you respond with, right, I have like first aid, CPR, AED training, basic training of life support things. So I knew like step 1 is calling 911. Step 2 is making sure she's not going to get hurt further.
Was she currently seizing still at the time?
She seized for several minutes.
So
it was, which felt like, of course, 20 years for me.
Oh, yeah. It's so scary.
But like it happens even with hyper athletic people.
Of course.
Even they have anatomical anomalies or a shift in hormones or, something shifts and all of a sudden they're not okay and they go to do this hardcore cardio
thing. The combination of it all.
And they have a problem, a medical problem. I think medical emergencies are probably one on the more harrowing of the spectrum because that's...
It is. It makes my heart race.
We always joke that like if the light cue goes a little late, no one's going to die.
That's
it's
what I'm
not
saying.
brain
if it's just
surgery.
a technical issue, it's a technical issue. I mean, it sucks and it's rough because we do treat everything like it's life or death. Like shows are really treated like they're the most important thing ever, which I like that sense of, like, I like feeling shaky about a cue. Like it shouldn't matter that much, but it does. And that's what's like, I love that feeling.
We operate as like anything less than perfect is not acceptable.
That's right. Which I like that a lot about this business. Like that's one of my favorite things, that there is this sense of like, this is the most important thing in the world right now. And we're a part of it. And we all have to work together to keep it as perfect as possible. But you get to a health emergency or something.
And then your world widens and you realize what is really important in this moment.
That's right.
Taking care of this human being who's on the floor writhing in pain. That is most important right now.
That's crazy. There's so many different things that happen. I have a thing popping into my head and I don't, again, it's morbid, but it's this like, it connects a lot of this. I remember sitting outside, I don't remember her name, but one of the principal dancers, the one from New York, we don't have to, whatever. And, she was super cool. So we're outside, we're hanging out, we're talking. I go in, she stays outside. 30 seconds after I go in, a woman jumps from the building and commits suicide.
That was awful.
In direct line of sight of this dancer, who is a principal dancer, who's going on in 5 minutes.
Yep.
She had to witness that, right? Remember that?
Yeah, she came to me.
Holy
we talked.
Shit.
I knew,
she did it. She performed.
Yeah.
She did it. I
said to her right before, I was like, you don't have to do this right now if you're not okay. And she was like, no, I think I need to do this right now.
Probably best to get her mind off
exactly.
it, maybe.
And I was like, okay, girl, do it. If you start having a problem, just let us know. Like, we got plans.
See? That's the whole team coming together. Like, we'll make it work. You want to do it. But if not, we'll find a way around it.
That was an awful day.
Oh my God. I remember talking to her later. Like, she really did see, it wasn't like it was the corner of her eye. She was looking that direction and she provided details to me that I was like, that's a horrendous thing to have to witness on any day, much less on a day where you are a solo performer, principal dancer in front of a sold out audience.
Doing a hardcore ballet.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Talk again about resilience, man. Sick, injury, and witnessing horrific things, prepared for people with guns outside. Like there's so many things that come into it. And again, the audience, no idea. They're
No idea.
clapping. She was beautiful. Everything looked great and glamorous and, oh my God.
But man, those are the ones that stick with you.
Right?
They really, I think of a
So crazy.
situation I was in with a dancer who was Cuban. He had defected from Cuba, but he was all, it was legit to be in the U.S. and be a permanent resident here and everything. So he danced for this one company I used to work for. And we were out on tour and he got stopped at a border crossing because he didn't have the right visa.
Between states?
Between countries.
Okay.
He didn't have.
They didn't want to let him into the
It was a
country.
Russia-Ukraine thing. Like,
Yes.
he doesn't, a Cuban national doesn't really need a visa for Russia, or at least at the time, didn't need a visa for Russia. And then we were like, does he need a visa for Ukraine? And the answer we got was no. Well, turns out that things had shifted by the time we were on that tour, and he did need a visa. But leaving someone in a foreign country...
Right. As everybody else goes on?
As everybody else goes on to the next tour stop, and he was upset because obviously it's a high-stakes situation for him. If they were to accidentally deport him, they would deport him back to Cuba.
Right, which they
where
would not
he would
release him. Yeah.
probably be killed. Not great.
No, not good for anybody.
So it was hitting him hard in the moment that we were having to leave him there and then, sort out the visa thing to get him to Ukraine. So
God, these problems are crazy.
It's nuts. And these are the things that don't even happen in front of an audience, but they're all the precursory things to getting the show on.
Yeah, just getting from one venue to the next.
Exactly.
Oh,
so
God,
I have this like deep core memory of saying to him, like, it's going to be okay. I'm going to hand you my phone now. Call whoever you need to call your family, whatever. Let people know where you are and what's going on.
Yeah.
If anything starts to happen, you're going to call the company manager. See, he's right here in my phone. You're going to call him, and we will come back for you.
Like
we
Marines.
will find you.
Like the Marines.
I'm like,
no man left behind.
What is this conversation I'm having right now with this dancer? But, he was freaking out, and we were like, you are okay. You are okay. We called the venue we had just been at, and the production coordinator from that venue came and picked him up, put him in the artist housing they had. All's
so
well that
nice of them to do, really, because
she was so great. I think of her to this day. She really saved us in that moment because he would have been out on the street with just his per diem, not knowing where to go or what to do.
Hoping for the best, and hoping things get resolved quickly. Like, you just don't know.
Yeah, not great.
That's one of the awesome things too about this. Awesome things. This is one of the cool things, one of the great things. I don't know a good adjective for it, but of the whole community behind like the arts is that she doesn't really know you guys. You just were there
for 2 days.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like a family in that way where we will help take care of you.
She took him. She got him, a beautiful little apartment to stay in for a couple of days. Made sure he had food. He came by the time we got him to Ukraine, it was the day of the show. We finally got him on a flight. He was good to go.
He didn't miss a performance?
He didn't miss a performance. We did the load in and everything, trying to resolve the visa issue. He got there, he landed, he gets to the theater and he's like, I had a great time. Meanwhile, me and my company manager are like stressed out to the max, trying to make sure nothing bad happens to him. And he's like, hey, everybody.
It's fine. What are you guys worried about? Here I am. Let's put on a show. So
it was definitely an all's well that ends well story, but in the moment, deep stress.
Yeah. That's a stress that goes way beyond just, will the performance happen? That's a stress of like, what is going to happen to this guy's life?
Yeah. What if the wrong thing happens right now, he's in trouble in a more serious way than the scene shift's not going well, let's keep everybody safe, but it'll be okay. It just might not time out quite right.
It really is a thread through all of this of like, when it's about the performance and how much, perfection needs to go there, and just when it's about like the greater picture, whether it's an injury or potential deportation in a foreign country, it's that idea of like, all right, well, we still stick together. It's not just like, well, you're on your own. If you can get to the performance, we got your first cue lined out or whatever. It's this idea of like, we're all going to kind of figure this out. We're going to get you to a hospital. We're going to get you to safe housing. We're going to get you, and then if you make it, we'll get you in. If you're not, we got you covered. Like there's a lot of that we have your back thing that I don't know, again, exists in most jobs.
No, I mean, even like my husband who used to do audio forever, now he works in a corporate environment and he's like, yeah, I'm like the happy, feely theater person who can talk to everybody. None of these nerds can talk to people.
No, I'm staying in this world forever. There's so many different angles to it and different ways in and around it. It doesn't really get boring. And as soon as it starts to get boring, there's other directions to go and new things happen and unexpected things happen. And it's so hard for it to get boring because like there's all these things that pop up that any perfect plan you have can't account for.
I have never been bored at work.
Never bored, right?
Not once.
I'd love to be bored, probably.
There's
give me
never
boredom
a dull
for
day.
a few minutes. Yeah.
Never a dull moment. And it's always funny when you think finally we've hit our stride with the show. Everything's really clicking and gelling and working well together. Boom.
Yeah.
Like,
Something happens.
Here's a new variable, boomerang getting thrown at you.
Or like complacency has set in and that becomes a problem.
Yeah, especially during a long run like Nutcracker. By the end, everybody, I have to have like the focus conversation with the dancers of, hey, everybody, I know we're all getting through this in whatever way we need to, but you got to stay focused. Don't start changing up your routine and what you do and how we do it. We got a system. We got a method. We got to do the system every time.
Treat it like it's the first performance every time.
When we don't do the system, that's when bad things can start to happen. So,
and I heard it explained like this audience deserves the same level of performance as last week's audience, as the previous week's audience. Just because you've been at it for a month or whatever, this is a new audience.
It still needs to be fresh and with full focus.
Yeah, they've paid the same ticket prices. They've gone out. They've got childcare. They've done all these things to come see this. They deserve to see the best possible performance as well.
Absolutely. Let's see. Oh, we can talk about environmental fun.
Environmental fun. That's right. And stuff like, we got earthquakes. We've got blizzards.
Doing outdoor, man. It's
outdoor. Well, yeah.
It's
even indoor. Even indoor with the weather is like all these issues pop up.
No, totally. I was at Jacob's Pillow and I had bats like swooping around me.
Bats. How are you planning for bats? What do we do if bats show up?
We were doing the most, deep, the dance, high art.
Right.
Kind of
very serious.
Very serious, moody ballet. And I hear like screeching above me and I'm like, oh no. And then I think to myself, so I hear them up above me at the calling position and I'm like, okay, as long as these guys don't feel the need to go on stage, we can totally keep this going and make this happen. And then I hear them and I feel like they're getting perhaps a bit closer to me and I'm like, oh, right. But I'm rationalizing. I'm like, you know what? They have echolocation. Right. They won't interfere with me. They know I'm here.
More scared of you than you are of them. That's what you always hear.
As I'm having this thought, one of them like swoops into my cue sheets that I'm holding in my hands. And I'm like,
actually makes contact.
Yeah, makes contact and like spazzes out for a second and flies away. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, it's on.
So much for echolocation. Here we go. So yes, the bats decided to be friendly with me. They did start going on stage, but they stayed out of the stage picture. They were like up above. So there was a bat eviction that occurred during intermission once we got through that. But the whole time I was like, what is my life right now?
Yeah.
And I'm inside too. How did you guys get in here?
Right. And of all things to worry about. Now you're worried about wildlife swooping through the stage, which is
great.
I love it.
It's just another day.
It's the unexpected, man. It's like super fun. Again, planning for everything, trying to account for everything. No one's putting bats on their pre-show checklist. Like, make sure there's no bats up in the...
Yeah. I mean, even, you remember the Doral Nutcracker?
What are you talking about? What happened in the outdoor Doral one?
Doral Nutcracker.
That was a nightmare because it was mid-COVID and we were getting tested every day. I mean, that was so horrible, actually.
That was wild. We weren't even allowed on the site until you showed your testing sticker for the day.
And it was early testing, so they were really going deep with the Q-tips. Like, I swear to God, it was...
In your brain.
In my brain. I was going in sneezing fits and we were doing it daily. And we were being very cautious.
We were, because...
Which is good. I mean, who knew?
We had to be.
We're trying to perform, and we're trying to keep everybody okay.
It was also pre-vaccine.
It was early.
I
couldn't believe we had the show.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's people trying to do what we can do, right? We can't be inside, let's be outside.
Yep.
Can't have children, let's pioneer some new video technology that really breaks it out and renders in a more 3D kind of way.
Yeah, which was crazy as well.
Which was a crazy thing for you.
At a last minute kind of thing too. And
yeah. No, it was top to bottom. It was a wild time. But, then wildlife, we had lizards on stage during snow scene one day. And I'm like, oh, my God, ladies.
Don't slip on a lizard.
I'm like, there's a lizard over there. And they're like, okay, we got it.
Oh, my
God. And I'm like, no, and there's another one over there. Oh, no. And I'm like, I'm going to be cleaning up a squished lizard in intermission. But no, they all avoided them. It was amazing.
They're good at that. When they drop something or something lands on stage, there is that, like, and because it happens often, a piece of wardrobe falls or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's that sense. I like when they go and they try to, like, in the choreography, sort of kick it off into sometimes it really works beautifully and it's like, oh, that was very smooth. And other times it's like, it's almost clumsy and everyone has to kind of stop.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's just avoided completely. And it's just, no one's going to mention this little red hat bouncing around the stage or whatever it is.
It's a hard line to walk. And then, of course, everybody in the wings is yelling at you like, get it!
Try to get it.
Especially in Nutcracker, the goal is to get everything off stage before the pas de deux happens because you don't want to be doing that kind of thing with hazards on stage.
Or really any of them.
No, and you see they're like a pod of dolphins, the way they communicate with each other on stage, like when they're turned up stage telling each other things like it's over here now. It's over the bell. Smart. I kicked it over there.
And you can't see it from the audience at all.
Yeah. No, and we had all kinds of stuff like that happening, especially at Doral. We had a show where there were birds in the grid during Act 2. So I spent all of Act 2 thinking and like mentally chanting.
No poop.
Don't poop. Don't poop, birds. You don't want to poop right now. These costumes cost a ton of money. These dancers, we're going through a pandemic. We do not need this right now. Right. So unless you're going to poop on somebody and make them win the lottery,
unless it's some real good luck.
I need you to not right now.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Well, remember the wind? We come back the next day and the video wall has shifted like 10 feet up. Everything has like been pushed by this wind.
That was nerve-wracking, having to call a show and monitor an altimeter at the same time. Right. And I had all these like protocols. If it's 25 miles an hour or over, you have to start bringing in the side scrim stuff. Yeah. And if it's like 35 or over.
Big safety issue.
Yeah. So I had with every cue I was calling, I was also watching this altimeter to be like, okay, it's been at 25 for a second. Is it going back down? Is it going back down? Nope. Yes. Okay, back down. We're good. We can keep going.
It's so crazy that so much of this, I mean, you've mentioned so much and so much of it that falls on you or any stage manager, that it's not like a team of like 12 people that, okay, you got one person monitoring the wind, one person is watching for seizures and injuries, one person is making sure the cues are called, one person is doing this. Like, I see you even like you're following music. You're not just following like a cue sheet. You're literally doing cues by music. So you're listening to the music, you're watching monitors, you're calling spot cues, light cues, projection cues, rail cues. Some of them fast, one after the other. Then you're monitoring wildlife. You're monitoring
trying to
weather. It's so many things. And it's like, again, you got to just kind of keep calm. Don't panic. Because if you panic, it spreads. If you keep calm, everybody else is okay. We'll be okay. We'll work it out. But it's I don't know, man. Stage managing is heavy. Like as far as responsibility, and I mean, I guess it's cool, right? Like you're in it. Like you are the machine. Without you, it doesn't work.
It's very fulfilling.
It has to be, right?
I mean, there are days where I'm just like, why do I do this to myself? This is crazy. I could probably go be a manager at some corporate muckety muck and make like 10 times more money.
Because it's not about the money.
I know, it's not. It's really, really not. I love it. I just love this art form, and I love bringing all of us together to make a beautiful thing.
I think we really learned in COVID that people really need and want that communal energy or whatever that feeling is that kicks in about being with a bunch of people and reacting the same way and experiencing something together. You can watch a video of the best concert in the world. It's never going to be the same as being there.
No, being there is special. There's magic in the air when you're there in a room with an artist doing something live. There just is. It's
so magical. And to be a part of the process to get there, to provide that for an audience, that's magical. And this energy, it's the energy really out of it that you don't get anywhere else, except maybe like a church or, but again, it's a live communal thing. You're not going to get that remotely at home.
That was definitely the thing I missed the most during the pandemic. And I realized I had been taking it for granted. So the second we were back in, I was like, yeah, there is nothing like this at all.
Oh, me too. you are in great spirits. You seem like you're doing really, really well, which is great. And watch how I wrap this up. And there being people there for each other. Thank you so much for being here for me to sit and do this on your day off when I know it's very limited time to have that off. This was awesome, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I really appreciate it. It's going to be amazing. And I hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, Kelly, thank you so much. All right, nice, right? See, you're still here. That was pretty good. We've got some variety happen. If you heard the first one and now you've heard the second one, you see where I'm heading with this. All kinds of directions, but all kinds of behind the scene antics. So we're going to keep that going, and I hope you'll go along with me. A like and review. Reviews are cool. Give me a review, rate, all the thumbs up button pushing you can do, and things like that. It's helpful for me and for the general public, I guess. All right. Doing the social medias, sort of trying, kind of. There are a little bit of everything everywhere. Search for me, standby to standby, etc. Again, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining me once again, and hope to hear from you, and I will talk to you soon. Okay. Good night.